worse than Alfred thought.
Excuse me?
He called to say he was concerned about you.
He worries too much. Will you help me get this off?
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
Yeah.
Ow.
It'll be fine. It's not too bad.
Well, Alfred said that you insisted on going for a ride, took a nasty fall, and instead of going back to Windermere, saddled up another horse and went out again.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you're trying to kill yourself?
Well, Rebecca lived with me for a grand total of 24 hours before deciding to move out again.
Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, neither did I. Still don't understand why she left. So yeah, Rebecca has suddenly moved in with the Quartermaines.
How'd she explain it?
She didn't. She claimed that she and I were moving too fast and that the Quartermaines needed her and Edward and Monica missed Emily so much and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
And of course you responded with easygoing and understanding.
Well, not at first I didn't. But yeah, by the end of the...
Sorry.
It's all right. By the end of the conversation, I was acting cool almost to the point of being rude, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not good.
And then, of course, she got defensive, and we parted on a strained note.
Well, look at the bright side. Rebecca's known you for a few months. I'm sure she's seen you all princely in Paris before and managed to overlook it.
Well, thank you for the reassurance. Now, can you please explain to me what she thinks she's doing? I mean, moving in with the Quartermaines, that just doesn't add up.
Sure it does. For Edward. I mean, he never wanted you with Emily. I'm sure he feels the same way about Rebecca.
And I mentioned that to her, and she denied it.
Come on, this is Edward Quartermaine. We're talking about master blackmailer and manipulator. I'm sure he's squeezing Rebecca into doing exactly what he wants her to do and telling himself that it's for her own good.
Oh, God.
Mr. Nikolas Cassadine is here to see you.
Oh. Thank you, but I asked to see Rebecca.
You'll have to go through me first.
Oh, come on, Edward, this is absurd. She's not your prisoner.
No, Rebecca's a very sensible young woman, and she has chosen to live with her extended family. And if you think that you can woo her back to that rock pile of yours in the harbor, you're mistaken. It will never happen.
Really? What makes you so certain?
She had breakfast with us this morning, and she was greeted with open arms. You should have seen the smile on her face. No, this is her home now.
Edward, you're forcing her to live here because you're holding something over her. What is it?
I'm admitting nothing. But if I was successful in manipulating her away from you, I did it with a clear conscience.
Wow. Did you just imply that you actually have a conscience?
More than you do, young man. The Cassadine family tree is littered with kidnappers and murderers and psychotics. You know, you brought nothing but misery to Emily, and I'll be damned if I'll let you do the same thing to Rebecca.
Elizabeth. Hey.
Hey, thank you for coming by.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I'm really worried about Nikolas.
Why? What happened?
Well, Alfred called me over to Windermere this morning because Nikolas took a nasty fall off of his horse, and instead of going back to the house or, God forbid, seeing a doctor, he saddled up a different horse and went riding again.
So you're telling me he had a fight with Rebecca?
Okay, but this is the weird part. He says that things are totally fine between them. But yet Rebecca moved out of Windermere 24 hours after she moved in.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, and guess where she moved to?
No idea.
The Quartermaines.
That's a little weird.
Not really, if you think about it. It's classic Edward. He is never like Nikolas. And how many times and how many different ways did he try to get Emily away from him? And you know Edward still partly blames Nikolas for Emily's death.
And that's completely unfair.
When does Edward care about fair? I know that he has made up in his mind that he does not want Rebecca with Nikolas, so he has come up with some leverage over her, and voila, she's out of Windermere and in with the Quartermaines.
No, I think I see where you're going with this.
Oh, come on. You know I have tried my hardest to accept Rebecca for Nikolas's sake. I sat 3 feet away from her at karaoke, and I didn't pick a fight or roll my eyes once at her.
But
There is no chance that she would give up living with Nikolas if Edward wasn't blackmailing her. Which means Rebecca has something to hide.
You have no right to control Rebecca's life.
Your involvement with Rebecca is a disservice to anything you had with Emily.
She's her own person, Edward.
Of course she is, and the Quartermaines love her because of her relationship to Emily, but you want her to take Emily's place. You see, Monica and I appreciate Rebecca for who she is. She was raised in a small town with limited funds and resources, and we want to give her all of the advantages and opportunities that we gave Emily. We want her to be able to make her own choices, spread her wings and fly. Can you say as much? No, you can't. She doesn't need you, Nikolas, so do us all a favor and leave her the hell alone.
All right, so you're right. And Rebecca does have something to hide. That doesn't make her a threat to Nikolas.
I didn't say she was a threat. Exactly. But you don't like the two of them together any more than I do.
Look, it's a little morbid, and I think he's using Rebecca as a substitute for him.
Which doesn't seem to bother her any.
Come on, she's an outsider. She doesn't realize that all this little princely romance that my brother is showering her with is an imitation of what he had with M.
Okay, you and I obviously see things very differently. You think Rebecca is innocent and that Nikolas is using her, not necessarily out of malice, but that he knows what he's doing. And he's being self-indulgent and unfair.
Pretty much.
Well, I see things completely opposite. I think that Nikolas literally cannot help himself. That he has been grieving for Emily for so long, every time he tries to move on, it just blows up in his face. And then in walks this woman who looks exactly like Emily, who's totally eager to fill her shoes. How can he not say yes?
Nikolas has been pursuing her from the start.
Right. The long-lost twin sister who just happened to end up in Port Charles. Yeah, sorry, I don't buy it. The stories do not add up, and they never did. And now Edward knows something that he's using to blackmail her.
That should make you happy since Edward doesn't want Rebecca with Nikolas anyway.
No, because if Edward ends up being the bad guy, then Nikolas will never see Rebecca for who she really is. He will never look past that phase and see that she's the complete opposite of Emily. You know I wasn't happy about the two of them moving in together, and then I realized it's the best thing that could have ever happened, because living with Rebecca, Nikolas will see that she is not the person he wants her to be. And now Edward has just stuck himself in the middle, and Nikolas is going to fight the Quartermaines for Rebecca just like he fought the Quartermaines for Emily. And it's going to be this really unhealthy way of reliving the past, and I don't know how to make Nikolas see that.
This has got you pretty wound up.
Well, you should be wound up too. Because I'm telling you, no matter how this plays out, Nikolas is going to end up badly hurt.
Heads will roll for this.
It's just a misunderstanding.
No, it's another example of PCPD's gross incompetence. Organized crime plagues this city. Who do they arrest? Oh, a distinguished businessman and an upstanding young woman. It's a travesty.
Oh, please, calm down, Mr. Quartermaine.
Edward.
Edward.
I know you won't call me grandfather.
Okay, you need to calm down.
No, I will not put up with this outrage.
Look, being locked up in here is not exactly how I want to spend my day either, but we're not fugitives. It's all going to get straightened out.
Oh, God.
Not him.
Well, looks like Rebecca needed me after all.